Stop scrolling. Welcome back. Before we plunge into a devastating true story of betrayal, medical manipulation, and a woman's staggering comeback, tell us in the comments, from which city are you watching? Get ready for the ultimate public humiliation. The humiliation. The grand ballroom of the Fairmont Hotel was plunged into a tense silence. Cassandra Cassie Chen, rigid in her wheelchair, watched as her husband, Marcus Thorne, draped an arm around his visibly pregnant mistress in front of 200 stunned guests. San Francisco's tech and design elite. "I'd like to introduce everyone to Anya," Marcus announced proudly, his voice booming across the room. "Not only is she the new creative director of our firm, but she is the mother of my son and the future I've always dreamed of." Camera flashes illuminated the scene as Marcus looked directly at Cassie, his disabled wife of 12 years, with a mixture of pity and cold disdain. "Sometimes life gives us a second chance at happiness," he continued, raising his champagne flute. But as tears threatened to spill from Cassie's eyes, something entirely unexpected happened. She smiled, and that smile sent a shiver down Marcus's spine. Chapter 1. The Apex, the Fall, and the Chill. 7 years prior, Cassie and Marcus Thorne were the golden couple of the San Francisco architectural world. Their modern, glass home, overlooking the Bay Area, perfectly mirrored their success. He was the charismatic deal-maker, the rainmaker who closed fortunes. She was the brilliant architect, whose award-winning designs transformed urban skylines. They complemented each other perfectly, recalled Denise, Cassie's former colleague. Marcus knew how to sell Cassie's vision, and Cassie knew how to make Marcus's promises real. But everything changed on a rainy Tuesday in November. The accident at the Pacific Heights development construction site should have been impossible. Safety protocols were Cassie's obsession, but somehow, a temporary platform gave way while she was inspecting the 14th floor of her latest project. "The fall shattered her spine," explained Dr. Hayes, the neurologist who treated Cassie. "Initially, we weren't sure if she would ever walk again. After 3 surgeries and months of grueling physical therapy, Cassie could walk short distances with a walker, but she remained reliant on a wheelchair for daily life. Her calendar, once packed with site visits and design meetings, was reduced to physio appointments and doctor visits. And Marcus, the man who had vowed to be by her side in sickness and in health, began a subtle, yet undeniable, emotional withdrawal. To the outside world, Marcus Thorne remained the devoted husband. He hired the best specialists, renovated their home to be fully accessible, and spoke movingly at charity galas about their journey. "My wife has shown incredible courage," he would say, his hand resting protectively on Cassie's shoulder. "Her resilience inspires me every day." But behind closed doors, a different reality emerged, one of coldness, missed dinners, and a growing resentment. Shadows at the Gala. The annual AIA Foundation Gala was in full swing, crystal chandeliers casting a warm glow over San Francisco's elite. Cassie Chen sat near the edge of the grand ballroom, her wheelchair positioned at a partially obscured table behind a large floral arrangement. From her vantage point, she could observe her husband Marcus dominating the room. At 42, he was still strikingly handsome. His salt and pepper hair and custom-tailored tuxedo gave him the distinguished air of success. "He certainly knows how to work a room," commented an older woman who had joined Cassie's table. Cassie smiled politely. Marcus has always been good with people. What she didn't say was how she had begun to measure the distance between them. Not just the physical space across the ballroom, but the widening emotional chasm that had opened since her accident. They had met 15 years earlier at the UC Berkeley architecture program. Cassie Chen, the serious student from an engineering family, and Marcus Thorne, the charismatic scholarship kid with big dreams. "He asked me to review his project," Cassie later told her sister Elise. It was terrible. All facade, no functionality. I told him his beautiful tower would collapse in the first strong wind. Instead of taking offense, Marcus had laughed and asked her to dinner. "Teach me," he had said. "I want to learn from the best." Their romance blossomed. Marcus's charm balanced Cassie's intensity. Her precision complemented his vision. Upon graduation, they were partners in every sense, launching Thorn Chen Sustainable Design, with nothing but student loans and determination. The firm grew steadily. Cassie's innovative designs prioritizing sustainability and accessibility, long before they became industry buzzwords. Marcus secured clients and funding, his natural charisma opening doors. The defining moment came 8 years ago, winning the commission for the Pavilion, a mixed-use development that transformed a derelict industrial site into an award-winning eco-community. "The Pavilion put us on the map," Marcus often said in interviews. "That's when I knew we were going to change the world." Success brought wealth, recognition, and increasingly ambitious projects. The small firm expanded, rebranding to Thorn Development Group, a subtle shift that Cassie had initially resisted, but eventually accepted as good business. At the gala, Cassie glanced at her watch. It was nearly 10, and Marcus had barely acknowledged her since their arrival. She watched him chatting animatedly with Commissioner Lara, the city planning commissioner, whose approval they desperately needed for their new Sierra Norte development. Cassie's phone vibrated with a text from Maya, her physical therapist. "Don't forget your 10 p.m. meds. How's the gala? Surviving the small talk?" Cassie smiled, grateful for her PT's concern. Maya was one of the few bright spots in her post-accident life. Tough during her sessions, but fiercely supportive outside of them. Observing Marcus work his magic, she texted back, "Practically invisible. Their loss." "It is. Your loss. Want me to stage a kidnapping? I'm a very convincing medical emergency," Maya replied immediately. Cassie was about to reply when she noticed Marcus approaching with Commissioner Lara. "And here is the creative genius behind our accessibility initiatives," Marcus announced warmly, his hand resting on Cassie's shoulder with practiced affection. "My wife insists every Thorn project must be accessible to all." Cassie forced a smile. "It's simply good design. Buildings should work for all people." "So admirable," the commissioner exclaimed. "Marcus was just telling me about your accident. Such a tragedy for someone so talented." Cassie maintained her smile, even as she registered Marcus's narrative at work, presenting her as the inspiring tragedy, her career spoken of in the past tense. "I still consult on all our projects," Cassie said firmly. "In fact, I've been working on some modifications for the Sierra Norte proposal that I'd love to discuss with your office." The commissioner looked momentarily confused, glancing at Marcus, who intervened smoothly. "Cassie likes to stay involved when her health allows. Now, Commissioner, about that height variance." Just like that, Cassie was steered away from her own project. She watched as Marcus guided the commissioner away, already immersed in technical discussions that would have once been Cassie's domain. But you think Cassie will be able to reclaim control of her professional and personal life? Leave your comment and subscribe so you don't miss the next parts. Chapter 2. The Whispers and the Discovery. Later that night, as her chauffeur helped Cassie into her adapted SUV, Marcus checked his phone, his face illuminated by the screen's glow. "Diego Jimenez wants me to meet for breakfast before the board presentation," he murmured, not looking up. "I'll have Mrs. Pilar bring up your breakfast tray in the morning." "I could go to the presentation," Cassie suggested. "It's our firm." Marcus's smile was thin. "It's just financial minutia. Dreadfully boring. Better you rest for your physical therapy session." Back at home, their modern glass mansion had been adapted with ramps and lifts. What was once their showcase of architectural innovation now felt to Cassie like an elaborate cage. Marcus helped her into the elevator with practiced efficiency. Supportive, yet distant. like a nurse with a patient. In their bedroom, he laid out her nightgown and medication, while she maneuvered her wheelchair into her accessible bathroom. Looking at her reflection, Cassie noted the changes 3 years had wrought. Still beautiful at 39, but her face was sharper. Permanent shadows under her eyes. Her body, once athletic, now felt like a stranger's. When she emerged, Marcus was already in bed, scrolling through his phone. "Martinez confirmed the investment," he mentioned without looking up. $30 million for the Parque del Sol development. "That's wonderful," Cassie said, slightly straining as she transferred from her wheelchair to the bed. Marcus didn't move to help, something that would have once shocked her, but now felt routine. "I'm heading to Denver next weekend to finalize details," he continued. "Just 2 nights." Cassie nodded, noting yet another business trip added to Marcus's increasingly busy schedule. "The Denver team could fly here," she suggested. "Or I could go with you. I haven't traveled in months." Marcus finally looked up from his phone, his expression a mix of impatience and pity. "Cassie, be realistic. The logistics of traveling with your situation are complicated. The team needs my undivided attention." The words stung, but Cassie had grown accustomed to such subtle dismissals. "Right," she said quietly. "That makes sense." Marcus leaned over and patted her hand, a gesture that felt more condescending than affectionate. "That's my practical girl. Now take your medication. You know how hard you struggle to sleep without it." Cassie obediently swallowed the pills Marcus handed her, wondering when she had become someone who accepted these small humiliations without protest. As Marcus turned off his light and settled down to sleep, Cassie lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Their bedroom, like their marriage, had been redesigned after her accident. Her hospital-grade adjustable bed, positioned for accessibility, separated from Marcus's premium mattress by a discreet but insurmountable gap. The next morning, Cassie woke up to an empty house. Marcus had left early for his meeting, leaving a handwritten note propped against the coffee maker. "Breakfast in the fridge. Mrs. Pilar is in at 10. Remember your pills." Cassie crumpled the note, irritated by its patronizing tone. She made her own coffee and wheeled herself into Marcus's home office. Since her accident, Cassie had been gradually excluded from the firm's daily operations. Her architect license was still active, but her designs were increasingly being modified by the firm's growing team. She scanned Marcus's pristine desk, looking for the Sierra Norte proposal she'd mentioned to Commissioner Laura. Nothing. The computer was password protected, and Cassie realized with a jolt that she no longer knew Marcus's password, something that would have been unthinkable 3 years ago. She was about to leave when her phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. "I'm sorry, but you deserve to know the truth about your husband." Cassie stared at the message, her heart racing. Attached was a photo that changed everything. Marcus, his arm intimately around a beautiful younger woman with a visibly pregnant belly, exiting what looked like a private medical clinic. The timestamp on the photo was the previous afternoon, when Marcus had claimed to be in meetings preparing for the board presentation. The photograph burned in Cassie's mind as she waited for Marcus to return home. The face of the pregnant woman was unfamiliar, but the look of tenderness on Marcus's face was one Cassie hadn't seen directed at her in years. When Marcus finally arrived that afternoon, Cassie had composed herself, the incriminating photograph tucked away in the pocket of her wheelchair. "How was the board presentation?" she asked casually as he loosened his tie. "Successful. We secured the financing for the Sierra Norte expansion." Marcus poured himself a whiskey, not offering Cassie one, as he once would have. "How was therapy?" "Illuminating," Cassie replied. "Marcus, who is Anya?" The question hung in the air. Marcus's hand paused mid-sip, the only indication the name meant anything to him. "Anya Sharma," he said smoothly after a moment. "Our new lead project manager for Sierra Norte. Why do you ask?" Is there anything you'd like to tell me about your relationship with her? Marcus set his glass down with careful precision. She's a talented professional I'm mentoring. Cassie, what is this about? Without a word, Cassie took out her phone and showed him the photograph. Marcus's expression hardened, but he didn't look particularly surprised. Are you following me now? His voice was cold. Someone sent this to me. I don't know who. Marcus's laugh was humorless, and you immediately jumped to the worst conclusion. That's your problem, Cassie. You've become so bitter. She's pregnant, Marcus. Yes, she is, and her husband is very excited about it. Marcus's lie was delivered with practiced conviction. I was escorting her to her appointment because she felt unwell at the office. As her mentor, I was concerned. Cassie wanted to believe him. A part of her, the part that remembered the man who had once adored her, desperately needed his explanation to be true. Her husband? Cassie repeated quietly. Who is he? George Davies. Works for a bank. You met him at the Christmas party. Marcus's details were specific, convincing. Is that really what you think of me, Cassie? That I would be sleeping with a married, pregnant woman? Said that way, it sounded absurd. Cassie felt doubt creep in. The person who sent this suggested— Who sent it? Marcus interrupted, suddenly alert. Sounds like someone trying to cause trouble, probably jealous of our success. When Cassie admitted she didn't know, Marcus nodded knowingly. Anonymous accusations aren't worth your energy. Now I need to review some contracts before dinner. As Marcus left the room, Cassie felt a familiar disorientation, the sense that perhaps she was the irrational one, seeing problems where none existed. It was a feeling that had grown increasingly common since her accident. But something about Marcus's too-perfect explanation gnawed at her. Will Cassie be able to uncover the truth hidden beneath Marcus's lies? Click like if you're intrigued, and share so the story reaches more people. Chapter 3. The Slow Burn of Truth. The next morning, Cassie woke with a clear head and a decision. If Marcus was telling the truth, there was nothing to worry about. But if not, she needed evidence. Mrs. Pilar, she called her housekeeper. I'd like to do some online shopping this afternoon. Could you help me set up my laptop in Marcus's office? The light is better in there. Once alone in Marcus's office, Cassie moved quickly. She began to search his desk drawers. Most contained ordinary business documents, but in the back of the bottom drawer, she found a small key she didn't recognize. Pocketing it, she continued her search until Mrs. Pilar called her for lunch. Over the next week, Cassie established a new routine. Each day, while Marcus was at work, she reviewed the office, looking for anything unusual. She found nothing suspicious. Then came Tuesday evening. Marcus entered his office at his usual time but locked the door, something he rarely did. The next day, while Marcus was out on a site visit, Cassie used the key she had found. It unlocked the very drawer that had seemed empty during her initial search. Tucked inside was a small black ledger, documenting transfers to offshore accounts, millions of dollars moving to numbered accounts in the Cayman Islands. Most unsettling were the notes in the margins. Anya apt deposit, Anya car, Anya medical expenses. Anya. Cassie photographed every page before returning the ledger exactly as she had found it. That same afternoon, she called Denise, her former colleague. Cassie, it's been ages. Denise sounded genuinely pleased to hear from her. How are you managing? Denise, I need to ask you something confidentially. Do you know anything about a project manager named Anya Sharma? A pause. Anya? Young, stunning, always impeccably dressed. Early 30s. She's been at Thorne for about a year. Rising star. Denise hesitated. Cassie, there have been rumors. About what? Marcus seems particularly interested in her career. Late meetings, private lunches. The office gossip machine works overtime whenever they're together. Denise sighed. I didn't want to say anything without proof, After everything you've been through, Cassie's suspicions crystallized into certainty. Thank you for being honest. One more thing. Is she married? To someone named George Davies? Denise's laugh confirmed what Cassie already knew. Anya? No. Definitely single. In fact, she makes a point of mentioning it. After ending the call, a strange calm settled over Cassie. The pain of confirmation was mixed with validation. She was not imagining things. That night, she watched Marcus more carefully, noticing how he checked his phone every time it rang. The slight smile when reading certain messages. After dinner, he announced yet another business trip for the following week. 3 days in Denver for the Los Olivos project, he said casually. That's interesting, Cassie replied, keeping her voice neutral. I thought the Los Olivos presentation wasn't until next month. Marcus barely hesitated. They moved up the timeline. These developers are always impatient. Another lie. Cassie had seen an email on Marcus's computer screen that very morning, confirming the Los Olivos presentation for its original date. After Marcus retreated to his office, Cassie wheeled herself to the guest room and opened her laptop. It was time to be methodical. She created a secure document and began listing everything she knew with certainty. Marcus was lying about Anya's marital status. He was transferring large sums of money to undisclosed offshore accounts. These funds seemed to be supporting Anya. He was lying about his travel schedule. She needed more proof, but her instincts told her this was just the beginning. The Marcus she had married would never have betrayed her this way. When had he changed? Or had he always been capable of this deception, and she had simply been too much in love to see it? The next morning, Cassie called Maya, her physical therapist. I need a favor, she said without preamble. Something outside your professional duties. I'm intrigued, Maya replied, and worried. Cassie hesitated, then decided complete honesty was necessary. I need you to help me follow my husband. I believe he is cheating on me. Understood. I'll pick you up at 7. Dress dark. That night, Maya drove them to an upscale restaurant in her modest car, parking where they could view the entrance. Sure enough, at 8:15, Marcus arrived, not in his usual Tesla, but in an Uber. 10 minutes later, a sleek black Mercedes pulled up, and Anya stepped out. Her pregnancy now unmistakable, even beneath her stylish coat. Cassie watched through binoculars as Marcus greeted Anya with a kiss that was decidedly not mentorship. His hand lingered on her pregnant belly with obvious pride. I've seen enough, Cassie said quietly. Maya squeezed her hand. Now what? Now I find out how deep this goes. Comment and share. What is the most painful betrayal revealed so far? The affair, the financial fraud, or the medical manipulation which Cassie suspects? Subscribe to the channel. The next chapter brings the shocking confrontation where Cassie reveals her hand and Marcus makes a sinister threat. Chapter 4. The Sinister Threat. Over the next 2 weeks, Cassie built her case methodically. She uncovered credit card statements showing Tiffany jewelry purchases she had never received. She found reservations for a weekend getaway in Napa Valley during Marcus's supposed Denver business trip. Most disturbingly, she discovered documents for a luxury penthouse bought solely in Marcus's name, not included among their marital assets. The property was in the Pinnacle, their newest residential tower still under construction. Then came the most agonizing discovery of all. While searching for more financial records in Marcus's office, Cassie found a small velvet box hidden beneath a false bottom in his desk drawer. Inside was not jewelry, but an ultrasound image labeled Baby Thorn, 24 weeks, with Anya's name clearly printed at the top. Cassie was staring at the image, tears blurring her vision, when she heard Marcus's voice behind her. What the hell do you think you're doing? She spun her wheelchair around to find him in the doorway, his expression a combination of fury and stark panic. Finding the truth, she replied, holding up the ultrasound. Your protege is expecting your child. Marcus's face hardened. You had no right to go through my things. I have no right? Cassie's voice rose. I am your wife. That ultrasound should have been for our baby. That is exactly why I hid it from you. Marcus spat. Look at you. Emotional. Hysterical. You aren't stable enough to handle the truth. I'm not stable. Cassie was incredulous. You're having an affair, moving money offshore, buying properties I know nothing about, and I'm not stable. Marcus stepped closer, his voice dropping to a dangerous calm. Cassie, you haven't been right since the accident. The doctors warned me about possible psychological effects from your trauma and medication. Paranoia, persecutory delusions. Don't you dare, Cassie whispered, shaking. Don't you dare try to use my mental health. But Marcus continued, his tone shifting to a concern so convincing it was almost believable. I've been worried about you for months. These conspiracy theories, the hidden cameras. He had found the camera she had planted. Cassie, you need help. What I need is a divorce lawyer, she retorted. A calculating glint entered Marcus's eyes. If that's what you think is best, but I must caution you. Any judge will take your mental state into consideration when dividing assets, especially given how erratic you've been since the accident. The threat was implicit but chillingly clear. Challenge me, and I will have you declared mentally incompetent. After Marcus stormed out, Cassie sat shaking in her wheelchair, the ultrasound still clutched in her hand. She had expected anger, perhaps even relief at being caught. But this calculated manipulation was something far more sinister. That night, Cassie overheard Marcus on the phone in his office, the door not quite closed. She found the ultrasound, he said quietly. No, don't worry. I've been documenting her erratic behavior for months. My lawyer says we have options. Yes, a psychological evaluation would be the first step. Of course, I'll make sure you and the baby are taken care of. Cassie wheeled back to her room in silence. A cold understanding washed over her. Marcus wasn't just planning to leave her. He was laying the groundwork to have her declared legally incompetent. The implications were staggering. Control over her medical decisions, her finances, her very freedom. For the first time since discovering Marcus's betrayal, a genuine fear gripped her. This was no longer about infidelity. This was about survival. Chapter 5. The Medical Revelation and Counter-Strategy. The next morning, Cassie woke with a clear head and a new resolve. If Marcus wanted a war, she would have to be strategic. Acting emotionally would only support his narrative about her instability. She started with her medication. For months, she had unquestioningly accepted the pills Marcus provided. A cocktail of painkillers, muscle relaxers, and sleeping aids prescribed by various specialists. During her next physical therapy session, Cassie showed Maya the collection of pill bottles. Maya examined each one, her expression growing concerned. Cassie, how long have you been on this combination? About 8 months. Why? Maya pointed to 2 of the bottles. This muscle relaxer at this dosage would make anyone feel foggy and disoriented. And this one is no longer typically prescribed for your type of injury. It is known to cause memory problems and confusion with long-term use. A chill shot down Cassie's stomach. Marcus manages my schedule. He says it's too complicated for me to follow. Maya's face hardened. I think it's time you saw a different neurologist. One you choose yourself. Dr. Sarah Winter, the neurologist recommended by Maya, reviewed Cassie's medical history with growing concern. Ms. Chen, several of these drugs are contraindicated for your condition, and the dosages are unusually high. She looked up. Who has been supervising your prescription regimen? My primary care doctor, Dr. Hernandez, Cassie replied. He works closely with my husband. Dr. Winter frowned. I see multiple prescriptions from different specialists, but limited consultation between them. She paused. With your permission, I would like to run a blood panel and develop a more appropriate treatment plan. The test results confirmed Dr. Winter's worst suspicions. Cassie's blood showed higher levels of certain medications than prescribed, suggesting someone had been increasing her dosages without medical authorization. This combination would cause fatigue, confusion, and memory issues, and could have even been hindering her physical recovery. Under Dr. Winter's guidance, Cassie began carefully tapering off the unnecessary medications. The process was uncomfortable, but within 2 weeks, she noticed significant differences. Her mind felt sharper, her energy improved, and most tellingly, her physical therapy sessions showed measurable progress. "You've advanced more in the last 10 days than in the previous 3 months," Maya noted during a successful session. Meanwhile, Cassie continued to build her case against Marcus with a clearer mind. She hired a private investigator, Clara Jimenez. In a matter of days, Clara provided Cassie with a complete timeline of Marcus's relationship with Anya Sharma, including evidence that they had been involved for over 16 months, starting before Cassie's accident. "There's something else you should know," Clara continued, hesitation in her voice. "I reviewed the inspection records for the construction site where your accident occurred, and the temporary platform that collapsed had been flagged for reinforcement the week prior. The work order was signed off as completed, but there is no record of the actual repairs being done." "Who signed the completion form?" Cassie asked, a cold dread washing over her. Clara chose her words carefully. "The signature on the completion form belongs to Marcus Thorne." The implication was almost too monstrous to contemplate. Cassie had always assumed her fall was a tragic accident. The idea that Marcus could have knowingly allowed her to use unsafe equipment was unthinkable. Yet the pattern of his behavior, insisting on specific doctors, managing all her medication, and gradually isolating her, was now terrifyingly clear. Interactive question. The revelation that Marcus signed off on the faulty platform is the ultimate betrayal. How should Cassie use this information? A. To secure a massive divorce settlement and walk away. B. To expose him publicly and pursue criminal charges. Comment A or B and explain why. Like this video and subscribe. The final 2 chapters are the dramatic climax, where Cassie makes her move. Black Pawn, Chapter 6, The Final Trap and the Downfall. Armed with the knowledge that Marcus had not only been unfaithful and financially fraudulent, but had also systematically undermined her health and recovery, Cassandra, Cassie, knew she needed more than a simple divorce. She needed accountability. Through Clara Jimenez's investigation, Cassie discovered that Marcus was planning the firm's annual gala, usually held at a downtown hotel in their own home. "He says it's to make it easier for you to attend," Denise explained, the doubt evident in her voice. Cassie immediately recognized the opportunity. Marcus planned to use the gala to announce Anya as his new business partner and publicly present her as the mother of his child, effectively declaring his new future while humiliating Cassie in her own house. "It's breathtakingly cruel," Maya said when Cassie shared the discovery. Cassie's smile was cold and determined. "Actually, it's perfect. He's creating exactly the stage I need." With the gala 3 weeks away, Cassie went into overdrive, coordinating with her growing team of allies. She had reconnected with her estranged twin sister, Elise, whose expertise in digital security proved invaluable. Elise helped Cassie access Marcus's password-protected files, revealing a trove of incriminating information, including emails detailing the offshore accounts, correspondence with Anya dating back to before the accident, and, most disturbingly, proof that Marcus had been embezzling millions from their charitable organization, the Thorne Foundation for Accessible Design, to finance Anya's penthouse. "He's been misusing funds meant for people with disabilities," Elise confirmed, looking through the financial documents. Cassie hired Rafael Dominguez, a sharp attorney specializing in financial fraud and elderly disabled exploitation. What you describe is a textbook case of psychological medical manipulation and financial exploitation, Rafael explained. The manipulation of medication alone is potentially criminal. Cassie gave the final command. I want him exposed completely, not just the affair, but the financial fraud, the medical manipulation, and his role in my accident. Gala, night. The reversal. The day of the gala arrived with perfect weather. Professional decorators transformed the main floor of the glass house into an elegant venue. Cassie spent the afternoon in meticulous preparation, selecting a midnight blue dress that Marcus had always claimed was his favorite, a subtle reminder of the woman she once was. As guests arrived at 7, Cassie watched Marcus command the room, playing the part of the successful entrepreneur and devoted husband. As instructed by Marcus, staff eventually wheeled her chair into a corner of the main room, partially obscured by a large floral arrangement. At 9:02 p.m., Marcus tapped his glass, moving towards the small stage area, where a projection screen displayed the Thorn Development Group logo. Friends, colleagues, esteemed partners, Marcus's voice boomed. Tonight, I am thrilled to share our most recent vision, one that will transform not only our skyline, but our firm itself. He gestured to Anya, inviting her onto the stage. It is my pleasure to introduce Anya Sharma, who joins Thorn Development Group as our new creative director and my partner in bringing the skyline to life. Applause filled the room, though many guests looked uncomfortable, their eyes flickering between Marcus, the pregnant Anya, and Cassie in the corner. Marcus placed his arm around Anya's waist. Anya brings a brilliant design sensibility to our team. Her vision for accessible, sustainable communities perfectly aligns with the future direction of Thorn Development Group. The irony of Marcus appropriating Cassie's lifelong commitment to accessibility for his mistress was staggering. But tonight is more than business announcements, Marcus continued, his voice softening to his most manipulative tone. It's about honesty and new beginnings. He looked directly at Cassie. Life takes unexpected turns. Sometimes it brings challenges that change our path completely. He continued his carefully crafted narrative. Cassie's accident 3 years ago profoundly changed our lives. She has demonstrated incredible courage, but life also brings unexpected joy. Turning back to Anya, he placed her hand on her pregnant stomach. Anya and I are expecting a child together in 3 months. A child who represents the future I've always dreamed of. The room erupted in confused gasps. All eyes turned to Cassie, expecting the collapse Marcus had anticipated. Instead, Cassie smiled and began to move her wheelchair slowly toward the stage. Elena, Marcus said with a sharp warning tone as she approached. Perhaps you should— I'd like to say something, if you'll permit me. Cassie interrupted, her voice clear and strong. Reluctantly, Marcus handed her the microphone. Cassie positioned her wheelchair directly between Marcus and Anya. She took the mic and surveyed the room. First, I want to congratulate Marcus and Anya. A child is always a blessing. She paused, allowing the murmurs to subside. I have known about their relationship for some time, just as I have known about the luxury penthouse Marcus bought them in the Pinnacle, using funds from our charitable foundation. Marcus lunged forward, his hand reaching for the microphone. Cassie, you are distressed. Don't do this. I'm not distressed, Marcus. I am finally clear-headed. Cassie turned to the audience. Clear-headed, because I have spent the last 2 months getting off the unnecessary medication Marcus has been giving me. Medication that kept me confused, weak, and dependent. The ballroom fell into a stunned silence. You see, Marcus didn't just betray me with an affair, Cassie explained, her voice steady. He systematically undermined my recovery from the very beginning, with practiced precision. Cassie activated the hidden remote control in her hand. The screen behind them instantly switched from the skyline renderings to medical records detailing her prescription regimen. "These are my actual medical records," she explained. "And these," the screen split, "are the modified versions Marcus provided to my care team, increasing dosages and adding drugs known to cause cognitive impairment." Marcus's face was utterly white. "This is exactly what I was worried about. Elena is experiencing paranoid delusions. Her doctors have been monitoring her." "My doctors?" Cassie countered. "You mean the specialist you carefully selected and met with privately before my appointments?" The screen changed again, showing emails between Marcus and several medical professionals, with his instructions highlighted in incriminating detail. But medical manipulation was only part of a larger plan. Marcus needed control over our finances. The projection switched to financial records, showing the offshore accounts, property purchases, and foundation fund transfers Marcus had hidden. In the last 2 years, Marcus has siphoned over $8 million from our firm and charity foundation. Money meant for accessible design projects, used instead to finance his new life with Anya. Diego Jimenez, the venture capitalist, rose from his seat. "Marcus, is this accurate? Foundation funds used for personal expenses?" Before Marcus could respond, Cassie continued with her meticulous presentation. "Perhaps most disturbing was discovering Marcus's role in my accident 3 years ago." The screen changed to display the security footage Clara had provided, Marcus examining the unsafe platform, then paying the foreman to ignore it just hours before Cassie's fall. Marcus finally broke, lunging toward Cassie. "Stop! You have no idea what you're talking about. You're delusional." Several guests rushed forward to restrain him, shocked by his aggressive movement toward his disabled wife. "I am not confused, Marcus," Cassie said calmly. "Not anymore." Then, in the moment she had been preparing for over weeks, Cassie activated the brake on her wheelchair, placed her hands on the armrests, and slowly and deliberately stood up. A collective gasp filled the ballroom as Cassie rose to her full height, stabilized herself, and took a single step forward, then another. Reaching into the small bag attached to her wheelchair, she pulled out a folding cane and extended it. "Thanks to proper medical care and intensive physical therapy," she said, standing before the astonished audience. "I have regained significantly more function than Marcus wanted anyone to know was possible. Everything you worked so hard to prevent, Marcus." She turned to the audience. "I am not sharing this tonight for revenge, but for accountability. Marcus's actions have damaged not just me, but every person who believed in our firm's mission and donated to our foundation." As if on cue, the main door opened, allowing several people in suits, representatives from law enforcement and regulatory agencies, to enter. "Mr. Thorne," announced a severe-faced woman, identifying herself as Special Agent Vega of the National Financial Crimes Division. "We need to speak with you regarding accusations of wire fraud, embezzlement, and misappropriation of charitable funds." The gala dissolved into chaos as guests scrambled for the doors. Marcus was escorted to a private room for preliminary questioning. Through it all, Cassie remained standing, supported by her cane, accepting the stunned congratulations and apologies of colleagues who had believed Marcus's narrative about her condition. Anya, pale and shaken, approached Cassie after Marcus was taken away. "I didn't know," she whispered. "About the medication, the accident. He told me your condition was largely psychological, that you refused treatment." Cassie looked at her calmly. "My issue is not with you or your child. Marcus is the architect of his own downfall." Interactive question. What is the most important lesson for the San Francisco elite to take away from this scandal? Trust your instincts, not the CEO's charisma. B. Money doesn't buy happiness or morality. D. Always verify medical and financial information independently. Comment by B or C, below. Final call to action. Like this video if you were cheering for Cassie's amazing recovery and revenge. Share this saga to show the power of resilience. Subscribe to the channel. The next, final part will detail Cassie's full recovery and her new, righteous legacy. Tuyệt vời! Chúng ta sẽ tiếp tục với chương 7, nơi Cassandra bắt đầu hành trình phục hồi hoàn toàn và xây dựng lại đế chế của mình trên nền tảng chính trực. Chapter 7. The Restoration and the New Legacy. The aftermath of the Gala was a whirlwind of legal, corporate, and personal restoration. Marcus Thorne's swift and public downfall was complete. He faced multiple federal charges for wire fraud, embezzlement, and financial crimes. The SEC froze most of his assets, and his former business partners distanced themselves rapidly. Anya Sharma, after realizing the full scope of Marcus's manipulation, cut ties completely, cooperating with investigators in exchange for immunity. She returned to her hometown, determined to raise her son away from the scandal. Cassandra, Cassie, meanwhile, focused on rebuilding not just her life, but her contributions to architecture and accessibility. The legal and corporate reckoning, Cassie's priority was correcting the wrongs Marcus had committed against the Thorne Foundation for Accessible Design. The foundation was completely restructured, with a new board and strict oversight protocols. Every euro Marcus stole was recovered and redirected to fund accessibility projects. Thorne Development Group was swiftly dissolved and reborn as Chen Design Group. "We are honoring all existing contracts," Cassie announced in a press conference 1 month after the gala, standing independently with the aid of her cane. "But we are refocusing on sustainable and accessible architecture, rather than luxury developments. The firm will now operate under a new standard of integrity." With the continuous support of Maya, her physical recovery progressed steadily. The unnecessary medications were entirely out of her system, and the intensive physiotherapy allowed her to walk with her cane for substantial periods. Her doctors were optimistic about continued improvement. "The human body is remarkably resilient when given the right support," Dr. Winter told her during a follow-up appointment. As is the human spirit, evidently. The triumph of design 6 months after the scandal, Chen Design Group's first major project under Cassie's renewed leadership was unveiled to significant industry recognition. The Phoenix Center, named with deliberate symbolism, was a rehabilitation facility specifically designed for patients recovering from spinal cord injuries and other mobility-limiting conditions. Every aspect of this building is designed to support recovery while maintaining dignity, Cassie explained during the press conference. "We aim to create an environment that recognizes challenges without being defined by them." The center was largely financed by assets recovered from Marcus's fraudulent activities, a fact that gave Cassie particular satisfaction. What he had meant for luxury and deceit now served those in dire need of support and rehabilitation. Maya joined the Phoenix Center as the director of rehabilitation, standing proudly beside Cassie at the podium. Their friendship had evolved into a powerful professional partnership. Cassie also reconnected with her sister, Elise, who moved back to San Francisco. The twins were making up for lost time, rebuilding the close relationship Marcus had systematically undermined. The final confrontation and peace, 6 months later, Marcus Thorne's legal proceedings concluded with a plea deal, which included a significant prison sentence, financial restitution, and the permanent surrender of his architectural and development licenses. At Marcus's sentencing hearing, Cassie delivered a victim impact statement that resonated far beyond the courtroom. "Marcus Thorne did not just betray his wife," she stated clearly. "He betrayed the ethical standards of his profession, the mission of his firm, and the trust of every person who believed in our commitment to creating spaces that empower rather than limit human potential." A year later, the Architectural Awards ceremony recognized Cassie's full return to professional prominence. As she walked slowly but independently to the podium with her cane, the standing ovation acknowledged not just the innovative, accessible housing project being honored, but her personal journey of resilience. Architecture has always been about problem solving, she began her acceptance speech. It's about recognizing limitations and finding beauty within them, not despite them. Cassie announced the Cassandra Chen Scholarship for Inclusive Design, ensuring that the profession would continue to benefit from diverse perspectives. After the ceremony, Cassie visited Marcus in prison, not for reconciliation, but for closure. "Why did you do it, Marcus?" she asked. "Was I not enough after the accident?" Marcus looked genuinely pained. "It wasn't about you not being enough. It was about me not being enough. When you were injured, everyone saw me as the devoted husband caring for his disabled wife. It gave me a role that brought admiration. But secretly, I resented it. The medication gave me control when I felt like I was losing it." As she prepared to leave, Marcus asked the question she had anticipated. "Can you ever forgive me?" Cassie considered carefully. "Forgiveness is not something that is owed to you, Marcus. It is something I might eventually grant myself, the freedom to move forward without carrying the weight of what you did." She walked out of the prison feeling lighter, not because of any reconciliation with Marcus, but because she had faced him on her own terms, standing tall in her own strength. That night, Cassie sat in the garden of her new home, a space she had meticulously designed to accommodate her various mobility needs while expressing her aesthetic sensibility. She had sold the glass mansion with its painful memories. She looked at the stars becoming visible over her garden. Her path forward was not perfect or easy, but it was hers to determine. She had recovered not only her career and independence, but her voice, using it now to advocate for others. Her disability remained a reality, but it no longer defined her identity or limited her potential. The woman who was almost broken by betrayal had emerged stronger, proving that true strength often arises only after you have been shattered. Comment below with the word strength if Cassie's story inspires you. Final call to action: like this video. If you believe justice was served and that Cassie's legacy will be far greater than Marcus's, share this saga to inspire resilience. Subscribe to the channel for more stories of justice and courage. What do you think is the biggest lesson about subtle manipulation in this story?